Have you ever noticed how that incredible feeling you get from something new, like a new car or maybe a big promotion, even falling head over heels, it doesn't like stick around that same super high level forever?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or, on the flip side, even after something really tough, like a difficult breakup or a major disappointment somehow, you eventually get back on your feet emotionally.
Mm-hmm. It's like
Yeah,
there's a pull back to center.
exactly. It feels almost like we've got this internal emotional thermostat, something that keeps nudging us back to our own personal set point, no matter what life throws at us.
That's a really good way to put it.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into this really fascinating psychological idea. It's known as the hedonic treadmill, or sometimes hedonic adaptation.
Right.
We've gathered some really insightful sources to explore exactly why our happiness levels seem to drift back to a baseline, whether we hit the jackpot or face, really serious challenges.
It's a powerful concept.
Our mission today is to really unpack this idea, understand the sort of mechanics behind it, and maybe most importantly, figure out what it actually means for your search for, well, lasting contentment.
Hmm.
Okay, let's get into it.
Sounds good.
So to kick us off,
Yeah.
how would you define the hedonic treadmill for us? What is it at its core? And why the treadmill part?
Well, fundamentally, the hedonic treadmill is this psychological concept, and it explains why we often feel like we're, well, running on an emotional treadmill.
Yeah.
We keep striving, pushing for the next big thing, maybe getting that promotion, buying that house. It feels like progress,
Right.
right? But our overall happiness level, it tends to snap back, reset to a familiar baseline.
So like on a real treadmill, you're putting in the effort, running hard.
Exactly. Lots of effort, but ultimately you're kind of staying in the same place emotionally, happiness-wise.
Gotcha.
The core idea is that we humans, we have this natural, incredibly powerful tendency, often it's totally unconscious, to just quickly adjust to new circumstances.
It does quickly.
Yeah, think about it. Whether you, say, win the lottery, a huge positive, or get married, or maybe face something really tough like losing your job or a serious illness, these things will absolutely cause a big spike or a big drop in your happiness at first.
Oh, for sure. You feel it intensely.
You feel that intense joy or that deep sorrow. And this is the key part, our sources really highlight over time, people adapt emotionally. Their overall sense of well-being tends to creep back very close to where it was originally, their individual baseline level. It's like an internal recalibration.
Wow, that idea of an emotional set point. It's so powerful and maybe a little bit humbling too.
It could feel that way, yeah.
It sounds like it's not that we don't feel things deeply or that these big events don't matter, because they clearly do, but more that we almost automatically drift back to our usual emotional state.
That's a great way to summarize it. We drift back.
So how does that cycle actually play out? Can you walk us through the stages? How does this adaptation happen?
Yeah, absolutely. You've really hit the nail on the head there. It is a very consistent cycle, and, understanding it is really key. We can break it down into roughly 3 main phases.
Okay.
First, there's the initial impact. This is when that big event happens, could be overwhelmingly positive, could be deeply negative, and it produces a really clear, strong spike or maybe a significant drop in your happiness.
Right, the immediate reaction.
Exactly. Think about finally buying that brand new car you've been dreaming about for ages, that initial feeling, the excitement, the joy, that new car smell, how smooth it drives. It's palpable, right? You feel fantastic.
Totally. On top of the world.
Okay, so that's phase 1. Then we move into the adaptation phase, and this is where let's say the treadmill effect really starts to kick in.
Mhm.
Over time, the novelty of that new car or whatever the new situation is, it just fades, it wears off, you get used to it.
Right.
It stops being that thrilling, shiny object that grabbed all your attention. It just becomes, well, your car, just another part of your daily life, that initial rush.
Mhm.
It diminishes.
It normalizes.
Precisely. And that leads us to the final phase,
Right.
the return to baseline. Your happiness levels stabilize, and often they land right back near the same emotional point they were at before you even bought the car.
Wow.
The excitement has just become normal. And this creates that continuous cycle you see, where we pursue new experiences or possessions or achievements, genuinely believing this will bring me lasting happiness.
Yeah, we all do that.
But as the cycle shows, we eventually adapt. The big initial effect wears off, and it kind of sends us back to the starting line looking for the next thing to give us that boost.
It's incredible how quickly we adapt, isn't it? And how, well, persistent that cycle seems to be. It almost sounds like we're hardwired for this.
It certainly seems deeply ingrained.
So what's actually going on inside us, psychologically speaking, that drives this adaptation, almost without us realizing it. This is where it gets really interesting, I think, digging into the why.
Absolutely. And there are a few key psychological mechanisms that seem to underpin this whole process. They often work together sort of invisibly to keep us on that treadmill.
Okay, like what?
Well, the first one is habituation. This is actually quite straightforward. Repeated exposure to the same thing, whether it's positive or negative, gradually reduces its emotional punch.
Okay.
Think about the sound of a ticking clock in a quiet room. At first, you really notice it, right? But
Yeah.
after a while, your brain just tunes it out.
Yeah, you stop hearing it.
Or, maybe a nicer example, that amazing smell of fresh coffee when you first walk into your favorite cafe. It's wonderful, so potent.
Yeah.
But stay inside for 5 minutes, you barely notice it anymore. Your brain, being super efficient, just filters it out.
Uh-huh.
Now, this is great for survival, right? You don't want to be constantly distracted by things that aren't threats. But it's also why that new car smell, or even the initial thrill of a new relationship, eventually fades. Your brain just stops registering it with the same intensity.
So wait, our brains are almost designed to get bored, even with good things. That's
Yeah.
quite a thought.
In a way, yes. Or perhaps normalize is a better word than bored. And that actually leads us right into the second mechanism. Shifting standards.
Shifting standards. Okay.
What was once super exciting, a reason for celebration or a big achievement, it eventually just becomes the new normal. And crucially, our expectations adjust upward.
Ah, right. The goalposts move.
Exactly. We get used to the good stuff really quickly, and then our bar for what actually makes us happy or what we see as a success, it just keeps rising. That new car, it becomes the standard. And suddenly, you're not just content anymore. Maybe you start thinking about the next upgrade or noticing the cool features your friend's car has that yours doesn't.
Uh-huh.
Our satisfaction isn't really absolute. It's always relative to our expectations, which are constantly shifting.
That makes so much sense, especially with things like income or possessions.
Definitely. And then there's the third piece, social comparison. We are inherently social creatures, right? We just can't help comparing ourselves to others, whether we mean to or not.
Yeah. The comparison trap.
And that can seriously chip away at the satisfaction we get from our own gains. You might be genuinely thrilled with your new promotion and pay rise, feeling a real sense of accomplishment,
Right.
until you hear that a colleague got an even bigger promotion, or maybe bought a much larger house, or went on an even more exotic vacation. Suddenly, your own achievement, while still objectively good, just doesn't feel quite as shiny in comparison.
Oof, yeah. And social media must pour gasoline on that fire.
Oh, absolutely. Seeing those curated highlights of everyone else's lives constantly, it definitely amplifies the social comparison effect. It makes
Yeah.
it much harder to feel content with our own reality.
Wow. So habituation, shifting standards, social comparison. These are like the invisible gears turning the treadmill. It's a really robust system in our psychology, like you said.
It really is. They work together very effectively.
So, okay. What does this all mean for us then? For our daily choices, our long-term goals? Where do we see this hedonic treadmill playing out most clearly in the real world? It sounds like it has huge implications for how we actually live.
It really does. The implications are massive, and we see them pretty much everywhere. Take consumerism, for instance.
Ah, yeah. The constant buying.
This concept perfectly explains why people often chase material goods. Constantly buying the latest gadget, the newest fashion item, upgrading the car, the house.
Getting the next big thing.
Exactly, that initial thrill, that little dopamine hit when you buy something new, it's absolutely real. But hedonic adaptation makes that long-term satisfaction really elusive, that constant desire for the next big thing, that feeling that true happiness is just one more purchase away. That's the treadmill in full swing. We're always trying to outrun our own adaptation.
Trying to buy our way to lasting happiness, but it doesn't quite work.
Not in the long run, generally.
Yeah.
We also see it very powerfully in relationships. Think about major life events like getting married or maybe going through a breakup.
Huge emotional swings there.
Absolutely. Deep joy, profound sorrow. But the research indicates that people often, over time, rebound emotionally. They stabilize their overall well-being. The initial intense joy of a brand new marriage or the deep pain of a separation, it eventually mellows out.
Right.
Individuals adapt to their new relationship status, whatever it is, and they find a new normal. It doesn't mean the relationship or the breakup doesn't matter deeply, but our intense emotional response to its newness, that changes.
Okay. And what about resilience? You mentioned that earlier.
Yes, and perhaps this is where it's most striking. In resilience, even after experiencing really severe trauma or serious adversity, maybe a life-altering accident or a profound loss, Many individuals manage to recover their previous happiness levels over time.
That's incredible.
It is. It's not saying the challenges vanish or that they become completely happy in exactly the same way as before, but their emotional system adapts to the new reality. It allows them to find a way back closer to their previous baseline of well-being. It really demonstrates this incredible, almost inherent human capacity for resilience and emotional recovery.
You mentioned there were some really powerful specific examples in our sources, especially around those big life events, things that seem like they should permanently change someone's happiness, for better or worse. Could you share a bit more about those?
Certainly, a classic example, one that's often studied and cited, is lottery winners.
Ah, yes, the dream scenario for many.
Right. Imagine winning tens of millions overnight. A person who wins a huge lottery prize feels absolutely ecstatic at first, you can imagine. It's a massive, life-changing event. They buy the houses, the cars, travel the world.
Living the dream.
You'd think so. However, research, like that famous study back in the 70s by Brickman and his colleagues, it showed that many lottery winners actually returned to pretty much the same level of happiness they reported before their massive windfall. And this happened after just a year or two.
Only a year or two, even with all that money.
Often, yes. The new financial freedom, all the new possessions, they just become part of the new normal.
Yeah.
Habituation and shifting standards kick in. The initial excitement just becomes routine.
Wow. Okay, so that's the positive side, adapting back. What about negative events?
Similarly, consider accident victims. Individuals who suffer serious accidents, maybe ones leading to long-term physical challenges or disability, they understandably experience much lower levels of happiness and well-being initially. It's a profoundly negative event that fundamentally changes their lives.
Of course.
Yet, research shows that many of these individuals also eventually report happiness levels that recover remarkably close to their previous baseline.
Really? Even with ongoing challenges?
Yes. It's not to minimize the physical challenges or the grief. Those are very real. But their emotional system adapts to the new reality. They find new sources of joy, new ways to experience contentment within their changed circumstances.
That really does speak to the incredible human spirit, doesn't it? To find a way back, even after such profound challenges.
It's quite extraordinary.
But okay, if we are all inherently adapting to pretty much everything, the good and the bad, this raises a really important question. If these major life changes, positive or negative, in buying all the stuff, if those don't offer lasting happiness, what can we actually do?
Yeah.
How do we boost our well-being more effectively? How do we get off this treadmill? Or, maybe at least learn to enjoy the run more, maybe even step off it sometimes?
That's exactly the right question to ask. And thankfully, the research offers a lot of hope here. It's not a completely deterministic system. The key insight seems to be that lasting happiness isn't boosted nearly as much by changing our external circumstances, but rather by consistent internal practices, intentional choices about how we engage with our lives.
Internal practices. Okay.
Our sources point to several really powerful strategies. Firstly, consciously cultivating gratitude.
Gratitude. Okay. How does that help?
Well, it directly counteracts that shifting standards mechanism we talked about. Instead of constantly raising the bar for what makes us happy, gratitude encourages us, forces us, almost to notice and appreciate what we already have.
Focusing on the present good stuff.
Exactly. It's a deliberate practice of, you could say, recalibrating our expectations downward, but in a positive way. It makes us more attuned to the everyday joys that we might otherwise just get used to, that we habituate to.
Like that cup of coffee example.
Precisely. Simple things like keeping a daily gratitude journal, or even just making a point to explicitly thank someone. These can make a profound difference because they force our brains to focus on positive things we might otherwise overlook or take for granted.
Okay. Gratitude. What else?
Secondly, practicing mindfulness. This is a really powerful counter to habituation.
Mindfulness. Being present.
Essentially, yes. Mindfulness involves paying attention to the present moment on purpose without judging it. When you consciously engage with your senses, like really tasting your food instead of gulping it down, or truly listening to a conversation, or feeling the warmth of the sun on your skin, you're actively disrupting that brain tendency to just tune things out. You're bringing novelty back to the mundane. It lets you experience the richness of life almost as if for the first time again, stopping those positive experiences from just fading into background noise. It's about savoring.
Savoring. I like that. It fights the fading effect.
Exactly. And thirdly, the research strongly suggests focusing on meaningful activities and also pro-social behavior, basically, doing things for others.
Meaningful activities. Like hobbies. or
Yeah.
work.
It could be hobbies, could be aspects of work, volunteering, activities that align with your personal values that foster personal growth, or crucially, involve helping other people. These tend to provide a much more enduring sense of well being compared to just passively consuming things.
Why is that more lasting?
Well, think about it. These aren't experiences you easily habituate to in the same way. They often involve challenge, learning, connection with others, things that are constantly evolving.
Right, they're not static like a new car.
Precisely. Volunteering your time, learning a new skill, really investing in deep relationships, these provide intrinsic rewards. They tap into a different part of our psychology, a deeper sense of purpose and connection, which seems less susceptible to that treadmill effect.
So it's really about understanding that our internal landscape, how we choose to see things, react, engage with the world, and the intentional things we do can have a much bigger, longer lasting impact than just what happens to us or what we buy.
That sums it up beautifully. It's shifting the focus from chasing external highs to consciously nurturing internal contentment.
That feels like a genuinely actionable takeaway, something you can actually work on.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's recap. We've taken a real deep dive today into the hedonic treadmill. We've understood that whether life throws good stuff or bad stuff our way, our emotional thermostat often kind of nudges us back towards a personal set point.
That tendency to return to baseline.
We've looked at those subtle psychological gears working behind the scenes habituation, those shifting standards, and that sneaky social comparison that drive this whole process. And we've seen its huge impact on everything from, consumer culture to our incredible human resilience.
And maybe most importantly, we've discovered that finding true, more sustainable happiness might not actually come from chasing the next big thing, the next purchase, or even the next major life event,
Right.
but rather from cultivating these internal, intentional practices, things like gratitude, like mindfulness, and really engaging deeply in activities that feel meaningful to us. It's much more about how we live our lives day to day, not just the big milestones.
So, considering this whole deep dive, if we know we're all inherently adapting to pretty much everything life throws at us, may be true. Lasting happiness isn't really about what you're relentlessly pursuing next. Perhaps it's more about how you consciously engage with, appreciate, and find meaning in what you already experience every single day. Something for you to ponder until next time.